From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. In the past 24 hours, the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza reports that Israeli airstrikes have killed 50 people. Palestinians fleeing the horrors of Gaza City, as per Israeli evacuation orders, have described seeing bodies piled up after they were shot and killed by Israeli snipers. Paramedics have also been unable to retrieve bodies and bury them due to the dangerous conditions posed by the Israeli army. A spokesperson for Gaza's civil defense reports that over 30 bodies in the streets of Al-Rimal, Al-Sina and Al-Katiba areas of Gaza City have been found. Israeli raids have struck homes in the Al-Maghazi and Nusayrat refugee camps, worsening the violence. In southern Gaza, Israeli army drones fired on homes in Al-Sabra, while the Israeli Navy targeted the shores of Az-Zahra and the Nusayrat camp. The destruction continued in Rafah, where entire buildings were demolished and Israeli army artillery hit the Shabura neighborhood. The Shuja'iyya district bears the scars of a 2-week Israeli incursion, with bodies filling the streets. Residents fear the same fate awaits Gaza's Tal al-Hawa neighborhood. Emergency physician Ham Smith, who recently returned from Gaza, described the situation as the worst he has ever seen in war zones. Israel has killed 38,345 Palestinians and injured 88,295 in Gaza since October 7th. The International Court of Justice has accused Israel of genocide and ordered an immediate halt to its military operations in Rafah. Progress has been reported in talks aimed at achieving a ceasefire in Gaza and a prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas. While information from the talks, which are being hosted by Qatar, remains limited, Israeli media reports sufficient progress to warrant the deployment of technical teams to Qatar's capital Doha and Cairo. According to the Ma'arif newspaper, sources involved in the negotiations highlight efforts to bridge gaps on critical unresolved issues. A recent 4-party meeting in Doha included Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al-Thani, CIA Director William Burns, Egyptian Intelligence Chief Abbas Kamel, and Israeli Mossad Chief David Barnea. The U.S., Qatar, and Egypt have been trying to mediate an agreement for months. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's rejection of Palestinian demands to halt hostilities has hindered progress. Mediators are reportedly discussing a proposal from President Joe Biden, which involves a 3-phase plan. The first step is a 6-week ceasefire with the release of some prisoners on both sides, then a permanent end to hostilities and the release of remaining prisoners, and finally the reconstruction of Gaza and the return of further prisoners. Key sticking points include the release of Palestinian prisoners in the first phase, Israeli security concerns about so-called weapon smuggling from Egypt, and transitioning from a truce to a permanent ceasefire. Netanyahu's non-negotiable conditions, such as Israel's continued ability to fight Palestinian resistance, have added to the complexity of the negotiations. Massive destruction has been found after the Israeli army withdrew from the Shuja'iyya area in northern Gaza. This is after approximately 2 weeks of intensified ground attacks. Eyewitnesses in Gaza report significant destruction left behind by the Israeli forces. Some Palestinians have started to return to the area following the army's withdrawal. Images shared on social media also showed several damaged Israeli military vehicles left behind in the area.
الحمد لله احنا كنا في البيت آمنين وقاعدين فجأة ما شفنا إلا القصف العشوائي على البيوت على المنازل في الشوارع في كل منطقة. طلعنا زي ما ايش اقول لك زي اللي مش عارفين وين نروح. في كل شارع بنمرق فيه كان في قصف. مستهدفين الحجر والبيت والمستشفى والشجر، ما في شيء إلا استهدفوه. وبعجوبة احنا في هذاك اليوم خرجنا من البيت ونزحنا في على الزيتون.
بس رجعت يا عم، كيف كان الوضع؟
رجعت أنا لقيت البيت مساح، وهذا مش البيت الأول. البيت الأول اللي كنت أنا ساكن فيه نفس الشيء مسحوه في الدخلة الأولى، والثاني في الدخلة الثانية، وهذا بيت ابني. الحي كله جرد مجرود في أرض نظير، ولا شيء موجود، تراب ممسوحة مسح. أنا ما لقيت إلا غير الشيء هذا في قلب المنزل، وأنا لما طلعت بالبلوزة والبنطلون، ما في أي شيء، كلنا طلعنا.
The Israeli army has bulldozed almost 50 acres in the town of Safa, west of Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, according to a local official. The town's mayor Marwan Sabah told Anadolu news agency that Israeli bulldozers destroyed everything, including retaining walls and trees. The Palestinian officials said Israeli forces raided the town and used live fire and tear gas to disperse angry citizens. Sabah accused Israeli authorities of emptying Palestinian lands of farmers in order to control them. According to the Israeli anti-settlement group Peace Now, the Israeli government seized over 2,900 acres on June 25th in the Jordan Valley of the West Bank. Since the beginning of 2024, Israel has declared over 5,000 acres of the West Bank as state lands. According to Israeli estimates, more than 720,000 Israelis reside in settlements in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. All Jewish settlements in the occupied territories are considered illegal under international law. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has filed articles of impeachment against Supreme Court Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. Alleging financial conflicts and ethical breaches, Ocasio-Cortez argues their refusal to recuse themselves from cases involving personal interests threatens American democracy. Justice Thomas is accused of failing to disclose financial details and refusing to recuse from cases involving his spouse's interests. Similarly, Justice Alito faces accusations of biased decision-making and financial non-disclosures. Ocasio-Cortez contends that Congress has a duty to impeach, highlighting recent controversial Supreme Court rulings as catalysts for her action. Despite slim chances of success in the Republican-dominated House, supporters view the move as crucial for judicial accountability. Only one Supreme Court justice has been successfully impeached in U.S. history so far. We're bringing more news stories after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Texas company American Rounds has introduced vending machines selling bullets in Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama, with plans to expand further. These machines use AI to verify buyers' ages, requiring purchasers to be at least 21 for shotgun, rifle, and handgun ammunition. The initiative has sparked widespread debate, with critics calling it insane and beyond sick on social media. Gun control advocates like Everytown for Gun Safety have expressed concerns over the accessibility of ammunition. They emphasize the dangers in a country with high gun-related deaths, especially among children. Despite restrictions by major retailers like Walmart in recent years, bullets remain widely accessible across the U.S., prompting calls for stricter federal regulations. The controversial machines, described as easier to use than buying a candy bar, have already faced backlash and were removed from one location in Alabama due to poor sales. The S&P 500 has closed above the 5,600 record high level for the first time in history as U.S. stocks rallied. The index has been closing at record high levels for 6 straight days and posting gains in 10 of the last 11 trading days. It includes around 80% of the total market capitalization of publicly traded companies in the U.S. The Nasdaq also ended the session at an all-time closing high of 18,647.45 points, with an increase of 218 points. The Dow Jones, meanwhile, rose 429 points. Brown University has reached a resolution with the Department of Education. This is in regard to allegations of harassment against students of Jewish, Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim ancestry. The Education Department's Civil Rights Office says Brown did not sufficiently address issues, nor did it adequately investigate complaints. The school's resolution with the federal agency aims to enhance campus safety and inclusivity amid heightened tensions over international conflicts like Israel's war on Gaza. The agreement outlines key priorities for policy revision, including community safety, inclusive environments, and fighting discrimination. Brown will conduct a comprehensive review of discrimination reports from 2023 to 2025 and put in place anti-discrimination training. The news follows reports of 75 alleged incidents of harassment, leading to criticism of the school's response. Similar issues have surfaced at other American universities, which observers say reflect a broader surge in hate speech and incidents targeting ethnic and religious groups nationwide. Michael Cohen is petitioning the Supreme Court to revive his lawsuit alleging retaliation during his prison term. Cohen is Donald Trump's former lawyer and ally turned critic. He claims he faced punitive actions for refusing to waive his First Amendment rights and criticizing the ex-president. Cohen's legal battle stems from his conviction related to campaign finance and other charges, where he contends some actions were at Trump's direction. His appeal highlights broader concerns about presidential power and retaliation against critics. Cohen's case could set a precedent in the limits of executive authority over individual rights, which echoes past Supreme Court decisions. Cohen was sent to home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, officials later ordered him back to prison and placed in solitary confinement after he raised concerns over a release condition that asked him to waive his ability to criticize Trump. A federal judge later released Cohen again, ruling that he suffered unconstitutional retaliation over his desire to publish a damaging book about Trump and criticize him on social media. Cohen is now suing Trump, various officials involved, and the federal government itself for damages for violating his constitutional rights. U.S. officials and lawmakers are targeting a loophole allowing Chinese retailers to evade bans on importing goods made with slave labor into the United States. The loophole is known as the de minimis exception. It exempts packages valued under $800 from regular customs inspections. Critics say that companies like Shein and Temu exploit this to sell large volumes of cheap clothing directly to American consumers. The products are potentially made with Uyghur forced labor, which is illegal in the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas highlighted the logistical challenges this poses as hundreds of millions of uninspected packages enter the country every year. Lawmakers are pushing to remove the exception, with plans for significant China-related legislation by the end of 2024. They want to tighten oversight and prevent forced labor goods from entering the country. A record number of Muslims have won seats in Britain's parliamentary elections despite rising Islamophobia in the country. Observers say the election marks a significant milestone in the country's political landscape, reflecting the increasing diversity and the impact of Muslim communities on British politics. A record-breaking 25 Muslims, up from 19 in 2019, were elected to the House of Commons, the lower house of Parliament. Among those elected, 18 are from the Labour Party, 4 are independents, 2 are from the Conservative Party, and 1 is from the Liberal Democrats. Experts say Muslim voters' support for Gaza significantly influenced the election, with 5 independent candidates, including 4 Muslims, winning seats. As many as 3.4 million Muslims live in the UK. In February, the British Muslim advocacy group Tell Mama reported that anti-Muslim hate in the UK had more than tripled in the 4 months since the start of Israel's war on Gaza last October. Pakistan has disputed UN Refugee Agency Chief Filippo Grandi's claim that it has suspended repatriation of illegal foreigners who are mainly Afghan immigrants. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mumtaz Zahra Baloch said no such understanding has been given by Pakistan to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, or UNHCR. Grandi, who paid a 3-day visit to the capital Islamabad this week, said in a statement on Tuesday that Pakistan had halted its repatriation plan. Islamabad has extended time by 1 year for those Afghan refugees who entered Pakistan after the return of the Taliban in 2021. Last October, Pakistan announced the repatriation of Afghan refugees illegally staying in the country. The UNHCR opposed Islamabad's move, saying the return must be voluntary and without any pressure. So far, according to Ministry of Interior statistics, over 500,000 Afghan refugees have returned to their homeland. According to the latest UN figures, some 1.3 million Afghans enjoy the status of registered refugees, while another 880,000 have legal status to stay in Pakistan. Bosnia and Herzegovina has sent the remains of 14 more Srebrenica genocide victims to Potokari village. This is 3 days before their burial on the 29th anniversary of the 1995 Srebrenica genocide, in which over 8,000 Muslim boys and men were murdered by Serb forces. Every year on July 11th, newly identified victims of the genocide are buried in a memorial cemetery in Potokari, located in the country's east. After passing through Vukoska, a suburb of the capital Sarajevo, minivans carrying coffins draped with the flags of Bosnia and Herzegovina stopped in front of the presidency. This was near a memorial for children killed in the Bosnian War between 1992 and 1995. Denis Besirovic, currently chairman of the presidency, said no one can erase the truth about the genocide against Bosnia. Besirovic said that the UN made a big mistake in Srebrenica, which was acknowledged in 2000 by then Secretary General Kofi Annan in his report on the fall of the town to Serbian forces. In late May, the UN General Assembly passed a resolution designating July 11th as Srebrenica Genocide Remembrance Day, which received overwhelming support. Around 1,500 children were massacred during the brutal 1995 siege by Bosnian Serb forces. As the coffins passed through the streets, large crowds of people cried and prayed for the victims. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. Your support is needed more than ever to continue our mission of providing informative, educational, and inspiring content to Muslims in North America and around the world. Donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.